When I, when I think of a impactful, great movie or a story, mostly a movie, and you hear certain soundtracks, certain songs, certain notes being hinted at throughout the film. And as someone who really, really appreciates the sound, the music, the beauty that is hidden behind its complexity, even the mathematical joke that lies between music theory. But I didn't realize that coming from the guy who created or directed Whiplash, that this film had a lot more to say than I gave it credit for. Context: it is the 10th year anniversary for One La La Land, meaning that this film originally launched in 2016. A time where, yes, I was around, but as I heard surprises from this Ryan Gosling fellow and knowledge of this Emma Stone chick, remember Emma Stone coming from something like Superbad, for example, and it's a story or film that I always kept in the back of my brain. It's I had heard how good it was, right? But I also heard how musical it was. Whether it had been a pacing form or whether it had been just an artistic direction or an artistic hook or cue that general people weren't willing to accept. Regardless, I went into the showing completely unfazed in terms of whatever this was gonna be. I was gonna be excited for it. I was gonna be curious about it. But let me tell you, I did not expect that I'd be walking into a live action Ghibli film, right? Starting directly from where we start, that beautiful open Los Angeles freeway scene where I can look at that and be like, oh my gosh, is that specific exit on the specific freeway? Is It's impressive. I feel like we've seen this before recently with something like A Big Beautiful Journey. That's the last time that I mentioned that something magical and Ghibli-like was inspired, but coming to something like this where the colors are very like hyper and the whole movement of the cast is just filled with this musical flow, this whimsiness. It it helps sells you in this idea that you're stuck in this magical universe, and obviously that is what we were going for here. You hear things pick up and you hear moments happen and you see our two lead main characters, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, share this emotion. And the beauty of it, in my personal opinion, is that while we're so busy listening to the music, or someone like me with a very active neurons and neuron pathway, you're still seeing them have this moment of pure bliss and wonder and joy, and that has to be something that comes from someone as tuned into music as the director of Whiplash. If you know, you know. But to be able to really convey that much emotion and enthusiasm from every scene is something that I had not really experienced per se. And I do like musicals, right? I don't mind a good Hades Town or the other things we've been watching recently, but Phantom of the Opera, a cool minute. But it's it's not for everybody for reasons. I understand that. So when Hollywood or these people, these very creative minds, decided to get together and really shoot for the stars, you feel that. And potato. And it's really interesting to think where Gosling is at that point, and Emma too, because obviously she'd go on to do stuff like Bugonia and Poor Things. But like I never knew that Gosling was from The Notebook, right? I grew up in a household where The Notebook was very, very, very much appreciated. And I probably was in the rooms where when it was being played, but I don't think I necessarily uh, tuned in into exactly what we were doing at that moment. So seeing Gosling come from a very understanding that Gosling comes from a very romantic deep stand like point, right? And to see him bring all that emotion in this is talent, man. That's for obvious reasons, because we wouldn't know it, but in the super super future, this kid would go out to space and make friends with a rock monster, and it's just a fascinating thing, right? You see the guy in his interviews, you see how very quick he is, how witty he is, but how fair he is, how kind. You see how his co-stars always like say positive things about him, right? As opposed to someone that's super nice but has a lot of, let's call it, trash behind him, like one not Ryan Gosling. Yeah, Mr. Deadpool guy, whatever his name is, sorry. Ryan Reynolds, sorry. Uh but it's just it's very fascinating to me. I think he's Canadian as well. But it's very fascinating to me that this guy can come from a very like emotional place, right? His films come from a very emotional place. And this guy just continues to like do his thing, but do it well and do it in a way that it generally garners respect, right? And again, this is coming from like from a group of people that usually wouldn't be interested in musicals or romance or say of that matter, but there has to be a genuine respect from my end, but a genuine talent to be able to step in those shoes and actually convey just what it means to be human and what sharing those moments with your on-screen partner or your team member, your teammate. And to that part, one Emma Stone, who actually won a Oscar for this role, does deserve that praise as well. It's interesting again to think about where we are now. Again, thinking about how Emma Stone shaved her head for a specific movie that was real. She legitimately shaved her head for that scene in Bugonia. But yeah, and then seeing how really how that story must have appealed to her in a very personal way, seeing that she was just now starting as an actress, going from Superbad and doing more serious roles, and just where she was at that time, and that the emotion that she brings to that, and for the character and just kind of the chemistry that comes from the both of them, because it really starts off in a fun, interesting place where obviously you wouldn't expect things to happen, but because of how charming and how complete of people each one of them are, you start to see them react to the type of life, to react to those understandings. And that is at the end of the day, that is the hardest part of making it work. But that is what being alive is all about. It's, without getting too into it, because you probably shouldn't take relationship advice from someone who's out here doing this thing, but finding those moments, right? Being able to peel away from the party, or being able to find solace in a partnership, has to be one of the rarest things. And I mean that from a very understanding point. Meaning that where we are and what we're doing, right? The sort of lives that we have been forced to live, running the rat race, being stuck on that freeway for hours, it costs something. All of that direction, all of that energy, all of that focus, that costs something. And while we are willing to make the sacrifice, right? While a human being can put their heads down and push forward and get solid results, if the job is needed to be done, that requires a sacrifice. That is a price. That is your time. That is your effort. That is your dreams. That is your emotions being tested against the waters of life. And that can be frustrating, obviously. No one, I don't think anyone really has it easy, even people who have it easy. Uh, I've seen, I've seen those houses. I see how they live. They have everything in the universe. They can afford everything in the universe, but they're still not happy. And seeing how this film ends, right? Because I believe the reason I was never really super about watching this film in the past 10 years is because I had always heard discussions about the ending. And without getting spoilerific, even though it is a 10-year anniversary, you know, I respect you very, very much and your emotions. It it is it is decisive for reasons. And as much as one would love the Disney fairy tale ending with a nice bow and cherry on top, for someone cynical like me, no, I'm just kidding. For someone who has experienced lives, someone who has shared time with people who had dreams and hopes and ideas and emotions to respect or to take care of. You start to understand things. You start to see yourself in a different light. A good, honest person will reflect on these moments, see what we've done, who have I become, how has this person changed me? Do I really want to be that person? Or is there something that is telling me that things cannot stay this way, or something needs to change, or I'm feeling like this is not who I am. And that's a very delicate conversation. And I say that because, simply stated, men and women have different chemical buildups in their systems. So, frankly put, I cannot tell you that everyone should feel a certain way about a certain moment at a certain time, but through the science that we have understood about the difference and how we perceive things and how we deal with the situations at hand, it hits. It hits because it's real. Because every damn motherfucker who sat in that theater and watched Ryan Gosling give Emma Stone one last smirk as she walks out that room knows exactly why he did that. And as beautiful as a world with all the dreams in the universe can be, we don't get to make choices for other people. That is one of the lessons that I feel that we all have to learn at a certain point. So hey, my man put in the work. He built himself his jazz bar, and he single-handedly saved the jazz revolution. I didn't think they would get me. I didn't think this thing would get me as well as they did, but obviously coming from the guy from Whiplash, the moment Gosling goes on his speech about saving jazz, that's when I understood that we were really doing something out here. And again, like, just by simply hearing the soundtrack and receiving a swell of emotions, that's how you know you've just experienced a masterpiece. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's called cinema. And that is Hollywood. Or at least it used to be. But hey, I'm an optimistic type of guy, so why not? Why not live in a little bit of fantasy? So, with all that being said, I do not know how long this film is going to be in theaters. It is a special screening on Dolby. Yes, the nice big boomy bocinas. So that means that you're essentially going to be hearing the best version of every song, which is a very, very good way to watch this. That being said, I do not know how long it will be there. If you can go check it out, I highly recommend it. Real talk, this I thought Whiplash was good, and I love Whiplash for, again, what it brings, the emotions it brings to the table. But god damn, if I'm not a if I'm not a sucker for good romance, you know, then I wouldn't be human. So let me know what you think. Do you like jazz? You like jazz? Or are you more of an actress fan? And what do you think of Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling's careers? How far they've come, those two wild, crazy kids. And Andrew Garfield, too. I always, I always think of Andrew Garfield when I think of Emma Stone. I can't help it. But, hey, man. Let's write it out with a beautiful, beautiful tune. So, all that being said, if you like that, if you like this, then hit that like. Subscrizzle. And I'll catch you in the next dance. for Rizzo. But until then, it's time to go to the gym. Thanks for watching. Ja. Matane.